So this looks like a $1,000 professional aquascape, right? What if I told you that the most important part of this entire setup is totally fake? Look, I've always been obsessed with the look of a professional Amazon-style aquascape, but I was absolutely not about to sign up for the insane cost and endless maintenance that comes with it. So I faked it. And in the process, I found a trick that not only fooled all of my friends, but also created a perfect low-maintenance home that my fish absolutely love. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Let's be real, we've all been there. You're scrolling through Instagram, you're watching videos from the aquascaping masters, and you see these absolutely breathtaking underwater worlds. These massive, forest-like tanks with intricate branches twisting up to the surface, deep, mysterious shadows, and carpets of lush green plants. It's the dream, isn't it? A perfect little slice of the Amazon River, right in your living room. But then reality smacks you in the face. You start pricing things out. That one perfect giant piece of driftwood, we're talking hundreds of dollars. The high-tech CO2 injection system you need to keep those fancy carpeting plants alive, another few hundred, easy. That ridiculously bright, specialized lighting, you get the picture. It adds up, and trust me, it adds up fast. And it's not even just the money, it's the effort. We're talking about a constant battle. You're in there trimming plants every single week, sometimes every couple of days. You're fighting with algae that just seems to pop up out of nowhere. You're meticulously dosing a dozen different fertilizers, trying to nail that perfect chemical balance. If you neglect it for even a little while, the whole thing can turn into a disaster. It's basically a part-time job. I wanted the beauty. I wanted that wow factor, but without taking out a second mortgage and sacrificing all my weekends. I just knew there had to be a smarter way to get that professional look. After weeks of hunting for a shortcut, I finally found it, and it's almost embarrassingly simple. The secret isn't what's in the tank, it's what's behind it. This is the one trick. Now, okay, I know what you're thinking. An aquarium background? Dude, that's it? But I'm not talking about that cheap, solid blue or cheesy treasure chest background you find at the big box pet stores. I'm talking about a high-resolution, static cling vinyl background that creates an incredible illusion of depth. These things are printed with hyper-realistic images of actual underwater environments, gnarled roots, rocky caves, and dense plants. The magic here is that it does three things for you instantly. First, it adds a massive amount of visual depth, making your tank look way bigger and more complex than it is. Second, it's the ultimate camouflage. It completely hides all that ugly equipment, the filter pipes, the heater, all the cords that just scream, "This is a glass box," and ruin the natural vibe. And third, it sets the entire theme for your aquascape before you've even added a single rock. You get the look of a super complex, expensive hardscape for a tiny fraction of the price and zero of the effort. It's the ultimate aquascaping hack. So, let me show you how this all comes together. It's so easy, you'll be kicking yourself for not doing it sooner. We started with this, a standard 40-gallon breeder tank, a totally blank canvas. First up, and most importantly, the trick itself, installing the background. This is a static cling vinyl, so you don't have to mess with any glue or tape. The process is dead simple. You want to make sure the outside of the back glass is perfectly clean. Any speck of dust will show. Then, you just lightly spray the glass with a little bit of water. This helps the static cling stick and lets you slide it around to get it positioned just right. You carefully peel the backing off and apply the vinyl to the wet glass. I find it's best to start on one side and slowly smooth it across with a squeegee. A credit card works just fine too, to push out all the air bubbles and water. You work from the center out to get that perfectly smooth, bubble-free finish. The result is a flawless HD backdrop that seriously looks like it's inside the tank. With the background on, the rest of the scape becomes incredibly simple. For the substrate, I just used a standard nutrient-rich aquarium soil. You don't need some massive deep layer of it, just enough for the plants. A common mistake is using way too much substrate, which gets expensive and can cause problems down the road. Now for the hardscape, and this is where the fake really comes to life. Since the background gives me this illusion of a massive tangled root system, I only needed one single medium-sized piece of driftwood. I spent some time positioning it so its branches looked like they were blending right into the printed roots on the background. I just added a few small, dark river stones around the base to create a seamless transition from the real foreground to the fake background. Instead of dropping a fortune on a dozen pieces of wood, I let the background do 90% of the heavy lifting. Finally, the plants. The key here is low maintenance, low tech, and easy peasy. We want plants that don't need CO2 or crazy intense lighting. I went with some of the most reliable and beautiful plants in the hobby. I attached Anubias nana and Java fern right onto the driftwood. These guys are amazing because you don't bury them. You just attach them to wood or rocks, and they pull what they need from the water. They grow slow and do great in lower light, which means less trimming and less chance for algae. To help blend the foreground into the background, I used Vallisneria in the back. It's a tall, grass-like plant that grows pretty fast and creates this lovely flowing curtain of green. And in the midground and foreground, I planted different kinds of cryptocarine. Crypts are fantastic root feeders that are super undemanding and come in all sorts of colors and textures. They fill in beautifully over time without you having to fuss over them. No delicate carpets, no needy stems, just simple, hardy, beautiful plants that complete the scene. Section 4. The reveal, the moment of truth. With everything planted, it was time to fill it up and see if the trick actually paid off. Pro tip: place a plastic bag on the substrate and pour the water on top of that. It stops the soil from kicking up and turning your tank into a cloudy mess. And this was the result. It honestly turned out even better than I had hoped. The background blended so seamlessly with that one piece of real driftwood that it was impossible to tell where the real scape ended and the fake one began. The simple, low-maintenance plants in the front provided just enough real texture to sell the whole illusion. The sense of depth was just unreal. It looked like a 100-gallon tank, not a 40. But the real test? My friends. I had a few of them over, all aquascapers themselves. The first thing they said when they saw it was, "Whoa, where did you find that massive piece of wood?" One of them even asked how long it took me to grow in the background so densely. They were literally standing inches from the glass and had no idea that the entire back half of the aquascape was a high-resolution picture. I just smiled and let them believe it for a bit. It worked. It totally, completely worked. Hey, by the way, if you're finding this trick useful and want more low-maintenance aquarium hacks like this, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. It's free, it's a huge help to the channel, and you won't miss out on the other projects I've got planned. But here's the most important part of all of this. It's not just about fooling your friends or saving a bunch of money. This setup turned out to be an incredible habitat for the fish. A good background does more than just look pretty. It gives your fish a deep sense of security. Think about it. In a bare-backed tank, fish can feel exposed from all sides. They see shadows and movement behind the tank, which can really stress them out. This background mimics a dense, natural environment, giving them a solid, secure boundary and tons of visual hiding spots. My ember tetras, which can be a little shy, are now more active and colorful than I've ever seen them. My epistogramma pair are constantly out exploring the foreground, feeling safe with that complex world behind them. It turns a glass box into a home, which reduces stress and brings out their natural behaviors. It's a win for me and a massive win for the fish. Another big advantage I've found with having a background instead of a full setup aquascape is that the fish have so much more space to swim. They still have driftwood and a couple of plants in there to hide behind, or to act as a barrier between some when needed. Some aquascapes I've noticed quickly take over the tank, leaving little room for the occupiers to be able to enjoy spreading their fins and swimming. That's not the case when using a background as your primary hardscape. So, what about the upkeep? That was the whole point of this project, right? Getting that $1 million look without the 1,000,000 hours of work. Well, I can tell you, the maintenance on this tank is an absolute dream. My weekly routine takes, and I'm not kidding, about 20 minutes. I do a 30% water change. That's non-negotiable for any healthy tank. I use a gravel vac to lightly clean the front part of the substrate, and I use a magnetic scraper to wipe down the glass. I dose my plants with one weekly shot of fertilizer, and this seems to be the perfect amount. Of course, I rinse one of my filters in a bucket of tank water when the flow seems to be slowing down, but that's it. Because I picked slow-growing, low-demand plants, I only have to trim a stray leaf maybe once a month. There's no daily fertilizer schedule. No checking CO2 levels. Since the lighting isn't cranked up to 11, I have practically zero issues with algae. It is by far the most stress-free planted aquarium I have ever kept. It stays looking clean and beautiful week after week with the absolute bare minimum of work from me. It just proves you don't need a complicated high-tech setup to have a stunning, stable, and healthy aquascape. So there you have it. You don't need to be a pro with a massive budget to have a jaw-dropping aquarium. You don't have to spend countless hours every week trimming and dosing and battling algae. Sometimes the most powerful results come from the simplest ideas. By focusing on a powerful illusion of depth with a quality static vinyl background, a HD image, and strong deep colors, you can simplify everything in front of it, saving you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration. It's all about working smarter, not harder. This one simple trick let me build the aquarium I've always dreamed of, and it's a trick that absolutely anyone can use. So what do you think? Have you tried a new static vinyl background to completely change your tank's look? Or do you have a secret aquascaping trick of your own? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.